Hey, what's up, my benches? Benches. We're we're making benches today. It's gonna be fun. Yeah. You ready? Have a seat. Not yet. We still got to make them. Yeah. All right. So we're gonna make two benches out of 8 foot 2x10s. Now, as you can see, these are incredibly huge and very heavy. I'm also terrible at limbo. All right, so our first cut is for the top of the bench, and it is a 36-inch long bench as the client had ordered. And all the tools being used here to build these benches are very simple. Pencil, tape measure, a saw, aside from sanding, a square if you have one. I mean, relatively simple tools most of us have lying around. So we're going to measure both benches out and get to cutting. When building these benches, one thing I think is really important is that you check out the grain on both sides. There might be some chips, there might be some scratches that you don't necessarily want to be sanding out. Maybe there's something wrong with the board. And sometimes the grain on one side just looks so much better than the grain on the other side, right? Maybe the way it flows, maybe the way it sits. So there's going to be a side that you'd probably prefer facing upward. Okay? Keep that in mind for the future. And we're going to take the boards over to our miter station to get the tops of these benches cut. Yes, that is a 7.5-inch miter saw. Remember, fellas, it is not the size of your saw, it is how you use it. Sometimes. Sometimes size matters with a saw. And it was right about then. My vacuum let me know something was wrong. Yeah, he's not housebroken yet. I did have to rub his nose in it and hit him with a newspaper. Okay, after we clean that up, we are moving on to the legs of our benches. We are cutting those legs at 17 inches. That's me checking because I have the memory like a goldfish. After that, we are left with a top, two legs, and the support piece below. Way simpler than IKEA. Now we're going to take these things over to the miter station again. We are going to cut these angles, right, on a 22.5 degree. Now make sure you use that hand chop motion that I did. That is key to making this work. If you don't do the hand chop, you're going to have to throw the whole thing away. When you're cutting this on the 22.5, you're going to have to do both ends at an opposite. That means when you flip it over, there you go. That way everything lines up to the floor and to the base. So here's a really cool part is those little angles that we cut off from the legs, you're going to use those cuts. Don't throw them away. We're going to clamp them to the top of this bench so they can be used as supports while the legs are drying. This way there's no movement. You don't have to hold anything in place. It's a lifesaver. Make sure you got the side that you like facing out because, right, we want these aesthetically to look nice. For all the fancy pantses behind the computer screen right now, I can hear huffing and puffing about my Type Bond 1 glue I'm using. No, it's not Type Bond 1. It's a Type Bond 1 bottle that I refill with a Type Bond 2 gallon that I have in the back. So simmer down. Now, when you're building this, keep in mind we're butt joining this right now for the initial glue up. We're going end grain to face grain. That end grain is going to soak up a lot of glue. So feel free to spread it around, get a bunch of glue in there, man. It's going to be porous. You want enough glue to sit there. Later, you can clean it off. It's not a big deal. Once we get our legs in place, braced against that awesome little cutoff piece that we're using for support, all we're going to do is we're going to take our brad nailer and we're going to pin it in just to hold it in place. And I should say that when you put those supports down and you clamp them to the top of that bench, make sure the angle is matching the angle of the legs. Otherwise, you're going to have an angle going straight up if you put it down the other way. Again, brad nails just to hold it in place while we're building this thing up. Now that we got our legs in place and pinned, all we're going to do is we're going to take that support piece from the bottom and we're just going to gently set it there. Let it rest. Again, we pinned it in with some brad nails. It's braced against our awesome little cutoffs. The legs aren't going to go anywhere unless you start pushing on them really hard. So now we're just going to take our tape measure and we're going to match each end, right? Because it's going to have a tendency to wonk one way or the other. I believe I went 5 inches on each side. Once we do that, it's going to be the same thing. We're going to glue up. We're going to use some brad nails to pin in and hold it in place. I can already hear the people in the comments. I know. Those are butt joints. You can't just put it together with glue and some brad nails. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. There's a reason that the legs are at a 22 degree. Now, everything supports each other. The base supports the walls. The walls support the top. The top support the walls. Everything is wedged together. Everything is great. I did go back and I put a couple screws in with some dowel plugs just to be safe because this was going off to a client. That's all. But before I did that, I sat on it, I stood on it, I jumped on it. I had my kids do the same thing. They're not going anywhere. And I've done a few of these. They're good to go. All right. Back to the video. Go. Now, grab a file or even a scrap piece of sanding paper, and you're just going to start knocking down some of those sharp edges or rough edges that came off the cut table. When you're doing this, it helps the look, the aesthetic appeal. When you look at it, it doesn't look sharp. It looks inviting. You want to sit on it. As you're doing this, start running your fingers across it. Start running your hand down the side of it. If you catch a splinter or something just doesn't feel right, that's what the client's going to feel. So if it feels good to you, it's going to feel good to the client. If you are still watching this bench build video, congratulations, you're freaking awesome. Please crack that like button so we can keep doing fun videos for everybody. It's only going to get better from here. Now, the only thing that I hate worse than sanding is watching somebody else sand. I know I'm not alone. We started at 100 grit, worked our way up to 220. You're welcome. Please run your hand across the bench. Run it down the sides. If you feel a splinter or a rough part, the client is going to feel that too. Just go back and fix it. All right, now we're getting on to the icing the cake, right? This is the pretty part of the builds. The client asked for a weathered oak, so that's what we're applying. We're using a weathered oak stain. This is probably the coolest, prettiest stain that I've done to these benches yet. I haven't used weathered oak on these benches, and man, I can tell you right now, I'm probably going to do another set just for myself because it comes out incredible. When you're doing this, everybody has their own application process, right? Some people like using a sponge, some people like using a cloth. I personally like using these disposable paintbrushes. They're only 50 cents a paintbrush. Factor that into the price when you're, talking to the client. But I like how the stain goes on. I'm able to control it a little bit easier. I'm able to spread it out a little bit easier. If I can see an area that needs a little touch up, I can do that. I just prefer it. I don't think there's really the necessarily a major right or wrong way to apply the stain. The stain's going to soak into the wood regardless. This part just works out easier for me. That's all. I'm not trying to kill you with boredom, so we'll speed it up a little bit. The cool part about this is as this video goes, you can kind of see how that stain is going to be coming out as it dries. Now, I find it's easier to hit the bottom and then flip it over and hit the top so you're not screwing up the top of your bench at all. Really let the sides soak in. That end grain is going to soak in a lot of stain. Now, here we go. When we start wiping, right, I get a full wipe from end to end. Yes, I'm using paper towel. As you can see, man, that color starts coming out so pretty, dude. The best part about this is it only gets better as it sits. All right, so we finished the wipe down, and man, this thing came out so pretty. Look at the color on this. Yep, it's a weathered oak with an aging technique that I was using, and I might do that in a video. I'm not going to put that out just yet. But look at that. The way it sets into the grain on this, it almost looks like marble. All right, so we let our beautiful benches sit for 24 hours just so that stain can cure in, right? What I'm applying here is a simple Danish oil. Natural color, there's no tint. I like Danish oil because, man, it sets into that wood and it really, really brings out the grain, the pattern, the color. Everything becomes deeper and everything becomes richer. Unless the client requests a polyurethane top coat, I don't like using polyurethane. A, it smells like crap. B, it gives things that plasticky look. I don't like it. I like using Danish oil. I put Danish oil on all of the furniture we build, all of the home decor we build. It looks nicer to me. If you put 2, 3 coats on, you're going to get a nice protective coat. No, it's not going to be like a hard shell, but man, let's be honest. If you're buying something like a stool or a table or anything like that, you want something that's going to keep history. It's going to keep story, which is where I like using Danish oil. You ever seen an antique piece somewhere that you're like, oh man, like think of the history that's in that. And you see a little scuff mark here and there, and you see a little scratch here and there, and it just kind of looks like it's part of the piece. That's what Danish oil is going to allow to happen. Much easier to repair and refinish something that's been Danish oiled rather than something that's polyurethane. As I said, it's my personal preference. It's usually what's requested when I'm building something for someone is that look, that natural look. They want it to hold character. They want it to tell a story. It's really hard to have that with a polyurethane shell. A lot of people prefer polyurethane or a lacquer, which is cool. Go for it. My go-to is Danish oil. 1,000 different ways to skin a puppy, right? I think that's how that saying goes. And we're on to bench number 2. And of course, no project coming out of our shop is complete unless the foreman comes in to check my work and make sure I'm staying on task. All right, here we are. A couple coats of Danish oil and a couple days later, and now we're going to add one of the finishing touches. Howard's beeswax. I dig this stuff, man. It gives a nice protective coat to it. It really brings a sheen back to whatever piece you're working on. When you're doing this, slap it on there, spray it all over it, and then do circular motions. Really rub that into the grain and let that piece just soak it up. Keep in mind, you just put on some Danish oil. So it's going to have a hard time soaking that up unless you're really going at it. Yeah. Circular motions across the grain, with the grain, into the grain. You don't have to wipe it off right away. In fact, it's recommended that you don't. Let it sit there as long as you want. I think I came back a couple hours later and then wiped it down, and it really, really shined. Look at that grain. Man, that's beautiful. These are definitely the prettiest benches we've done. I'm super psyched. All right, here we go. Voila. Beautiful. As I said, I think these are some of the prettiest benches we've done. They sit about 17 inches high, they're 36 across, and about 10 inches wide. As you guys saw, if I can do this, you can do this. They're super simple to build, they're sturdy. I was jumping on them, my son was jumping on them, I sat on them, and I know the client absolutely loved them when she picked them up. So, look at that grain. Oh, it's so pretty. Do me a favor, guys. Tell me what you think. If you like them, let me know. If you hate them, let me know. Either way, hit the like button, give us a subscribe so we can do more of this for you guys. Now, this is probably the most important part of any piece. The coffee, for sure, yeah. But the delivery. The client's going to be coming to pick this up. What I like to do is I like to throw some string around, right? It gives it kind of that cool little decor look. I attach my business card to the front of it, and it just gives it that nice personal touch, right? That personal feel. It makes it look like instead of just handing them something and saying "Bon voyage," don't let the door hit you on the way out. You're showing that you really put some care and work into this for that person. What that's going to do is it's going to create return clients. It's going to create word of mouth. Someone's going to be like, "Oh man, yeah, this guy built this," right? They're going to get home, they get to cut that little string. It's almost like they're unwrapping a new present. So, like I said, I just wrap it around a couple times. I tie a little bow, attach my business card, and we're good to go. If you've made it to the end of the video, you are awesome. We have a lot of really cool projects in store for you guys, but we can't do it without you. If you could, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and if there's anything you want to see or talk about, shoot us a message. We appreciate you guys, and until next time, back to work.